The French Grand Prix is in the books, and it sure looks like an Aprilia rider is going to win the 2026 MotoGP Riders' Championship. It sure looks that way after a Le Mans race that everybody expected to be wet, was talking about a wet race the whole entire weekend, and then in the end wasn't particularly wet at all. And in fact, I believe the rain arrived like an hour, 2 hours later when Simon was in the Aprilia hospitality, or whatever remains of the Aprilia hospitality at the end of the weekend.
No, I was standing at the back of the Aprilia truck getting wet.
Okay.
In between the two trucks in the paddock, so not the hospitality. My trousers are wet.
Okay, well, let's not clip that part. Generally speaking, the big ticket item of the weekend, potentially bigger picture, is Marc Marquez's exit from the weekend and double surgery that he underwent today, probably concurrent with the race or right before the race. But in any case, I think we start so many of these episodes with Marc Marquez that it's probably time to start with the manufacturer that is almost certainly going to win the rider's title, that is genuinely like millennia ahead in the team standings now. If any of y'all have looked at the team standings recently, it's hilarious. It's very, very funny. A manufacturer that has a very realistic chance at doing the Triple Crown this season, if anybody cares about that. So riders, constructors, teams. Things are looking very, very, very good for the Aprilia RSGP that I don't even think is like incredibly so far ahead of anybody else, but that has riders that will not let it drop below the other manufacturers when that buffer of performance exists. And we've seen that again this weekend, executed exceptionally well. Before we get into the questions, guys, how do you feel? How do you feel about Aprilia's whole situation coming out of the French Grand Prix?
I keep going back to an article that we wrote in February 2020 about how MotoGP's worst bike is going to surprise you. I've just been looking at it with Massimo Rivola, actually. They've managed to turn this thing into something really special. I can't tell if this is a 1 year perfect storm or if this is a base that establishes Aprilia as a dominant manufacturer who's going to be here for a while. You know, we saw Suzuki do this, like the perfect storm situation, and win a title with it. We've seen Suzuki do it like 3 times, actually. But I don't know if that's what this is or if this is something different. But it's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, there's some optimism within Aprilia specifically. I think that this buildup of strength will carry over into 2027, but I don't even want to call it a perfect storm necessarily. It's just if we had these same bikes in 2027, then there would be no logical reason not to expect Aprilia to still be at the sharp end in 2027. We're not going to have these same bikes in 2027. We're going to have very different tires in 2027. We're going to have a whole load of things happening, including massive changes on the rider front. That are almost in the competitive order. Usually they would dictate, but here they're almost like partially an afterthought, or, I mean, they'll be important, obviously, but they're not going to be as important as they would be under stagnant regulations, because we don't know at all about what the bikes are looking like. The 850s aren't hitting the tracks concurrently. We don't see, like the prototypes running. We don't know anything. We're getting like glimpses of lap times here and there, some whispers. It's all way too early. So for now, Aprilia has to live in the now, and the now, which is what we can talk about, the now looks really, really, really good.
We haven't got any lap time yet that I trust. There's nothing from anything reliable source-wise that I trust, so I don't believe any of the lap times that we've seen. If my camera looks funny, it's because there's huge flashes of lightning hitting, like literally just outside the circuit. That storm came big time. We're underwater, so spare thought for all the poor hospitality guys who are currently dismantling the units and going to drive them to Barcelona.
Because those guys do. That's a job I wouldn't want to do in the paddock. I think it's fair play. They're the real heroes every time. When you're in a paddock, actually, and I think fans don't really understand when you say you've been to the circuit as a fan, where you just go home and those guys are spending hours after just dismantling down everything and moving it on. But yeah, to go into the Aprilia stuff, as you say, Val, living in the now and the present is in my head, I don't think. If I was Aprilia, which obviously they always care about the future, but I wouldn't care at this moment when you've just locked at the podium. You've got your 2 factory riders, 1 point separating them in the World Championship. You've had the first Japanese rider taking a podium on your machine since 2012. It's like this is just, I don't even think they thought it would go like this. And obviously we can talk about Ducati, Mark, and what's going on there, but they're just simply in another league at the minute to the rest.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's light years away, but even with Mark's absence, all the available evidence we have suggests that the 1-2-3 today was going to be 1-2-3 whether he rides or not on Sunday. The bike didn't look incredible on Friday, and then did that old Ducati trick of just finding a lot more in whatever data work they did overnight, and whatever they step up, whatever they find, whoever it is who leads that process among the riders, because it's, I mean, you can never be too sure. Maybe it's just a very, very strong engineering crew and sort of the crew of crew chiefs, crew of all the data analysts working there. But I mean, they were immediately superb in qualifying, with a particularly big step for Marco Bezzecchi. And then again, it is so important, so good off the line with the factory bikes. Like, Marco Bezzecchi got mugged off by Jorge Martin in the sprint coming through the Dunlop chicane on the opening lap, but I mean, Jorge Martin should not have been anywhere near there, and arguably neither should have Marco Bezzecchi should have been there, because Pecco Bagnaia started on pole, and we've gotten Pavlovian trained to if Pecco Bagnaia is on pole, generally Pecco Bagnaia leads into turn 1, Pecco Bagnaia leads into turn 2, into turn 3, and right now, so there are no bikes that start as reliably well as these factory Ducatis, factory Aprilia suddenly, and there are certainly no bikes that finish Sunday races as well as the factory Aprilias, to the point where Martin repeats the same trick basically on Sunday, in that he gets a great launch, but he gets boxed in. He doesn't get the same sweet run through the opening sequence of corners. He ends up like 7th, I think, at the early cutoff. But then the pace is just monstrous from the bike, and he works his way past Ogura. He goes, and then Ogura, shaking off the early lap rust, also goes. And at that point, nobody else can just size their way through the field the way the Aprilias are able to on used tires in the second half of the race. And then in the end, that creates a winning formula. This is basically really similar to how the Ducati 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whatevers we were getting a couple of years back. It was kind of the same formula. It's they're good off the line, and then when tire chunks are falling off the KTMs or whatever, there go the Ducatis waltzing past. And now tire chunks are falling off the Ducatis, and the Aprilias go waltzing past, and they go 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's I actually looked 2 years ago. So obviously it was a Ducati 1, 2, 3 and Le Mans Jorge Martin 1. It's quite ironic how in 2 years it's all changed. And it's a 1, 2, 3 for Aprilia. And you're right in saying that. Going back to his start today, he almost made too good of a start, that he gets caught up with everybody, which was kind of unlucky. But the pace that he's shown was just like, it was like watching Jorge Martin, but a better version of Jorge Martin. Like, I can't believe that, in the sense that you think when he won the title in 24, could he really get better? But obviously with this bike, and even if the tough year that he had last year, how he's turned this around, and I don't know how he's done it. And he's even said in the press conference after that he feels that he's a better rider now compared to when he won his world title, which, if I'm hearing that and I'm the others, that's a bit scary for the rest of the year, because he's so consistent. I mean, credit to Marco Bezzecchi as well today. He openly admitted he didn't think he had the pace, and to go out and do what we're so accustomed to him doing now on a Sunday, leading every lap essentially, and then holding on for P2. That was a really good ride. And Ogura is like the cherry on the cake almost, isn't he, with that late race pace that he's been threatening. And we think, when's the podium going to come? It should have came at Texas, but it didn't because of the issue. But for him to, at one point, I think on the world feed, they were thinking, can Ogura even catch Bezzecchi and Martin? Which was, that would have been interesting if he had of. But that Aprilia is just, it's something special.
Another lap, and Bezzecchi would have been in trouble from Ogura.
Potentially, yeah.
That was that close, because that tire was fading, and then that, another lap, and it would have been interesting to see what way that would have played out. But it wasn't. The only kind of caveat I have in all of this is that Marc Marquez isn't here. And I don't mean Marc Marquez wasn't here on Sunday because he's in
No,
hospital.
I know
I
what
mean,
you
the
mean.
Marc Marquez that we've seen this year, we now know has been, shock horror, lying to us, because riders lie to us all the time, as I keep saying, has been lying to us and wasn't fit. Wasn't fit all year, which, I mean, we all knew. It was all pretty apparent that he wasn't right. Now we know why. And that kind of, that's the one missing element, isn't it? A fully fit Marc on the current Ducati. Is that enough to overcome Aprilia or not? I don't know, because it's actually not that clear cut, because the Aprilia looks so good. It's not just that obvious that Marc could turn up and be fit and everything's rosy and he's going to win the championship. And it shouldn't be in any way a caveat over the Aprilia success. Because at the end of the day, we can only race what's here. We can only race what we've got. But it's just the one little thing, that the one little what if about the whole fairy tale at the minute that I'm curious about.
Yep, that's fair to say, and we'll get to the specific Marc disclosure, because it was a genuine eye opener when he said it after Saturday's race. So we'll get to that specifically, because it was very revealing, very interesting, and I think makes the whole season make a lot more sense. But what I will also say is, the most important thing right now, obviously, is who is going to be the 2026 MotoGP World Champion. That's the question that we're all here to answer. And how real this Aprilia thing is relative to Marquez in the context of that question doesn't matter anymore. He's out of it. He's not, he's too far back. It's not going to happen. He's too far back from two guys who are operating on a very high level on a bike that is probably slightly higher than him. Even if he comes back at Mugello in peak fitness, I really do not see how it could mathematically, logically be enough. But it is interesting, and it is relevant for the future. But we will get to it. Some questions from the Race Members Club. And by the way, I realize I've been derelict in my duty. Obviously, the regular host of this podcast is not me. It is Mr. Matt Beer. Mr. Matt Beer is not feeling very well this weekend. Picked up some sort of bug or something like that. So we're doing the wildcard thing again. I've stepped up into the factory team as the host, and Jordan Moreland's here again as the wild card.
And it's not a wild card, it's an injury replacement. They're not the same thing.
Fine.
Yeah. Am I replacing you then?
Yes.
So am I the one? Right, okay.
Yeah, so I'm
that
the
has
Alvaro
happened.
Yeah, I'm the Alvaro Bautista going into the factory Ducati team, and you're Mike Jones, I think, at Avintia, basically. Yeah, so there you go.
Very niche reference right there. For
it is
a lot of new fans are probably going to think, who's Mike Jones? So anyone that's new to MotoGP, go back and have a look. You'll enjoy that weekend.
This is fair, but also anybody who's listened to this podcast for like more than a couple of months is probably like, guys, shut the up about Mike Jones already. How does he keep coming up? How is it possible? And they're not wrong. Like, that's my fault consistently. I do the Mike Jones thing. Oscar Robledo asks, to just arrest this train wreck, how resilient do you think Bezzecchi is, and will he be able to hold off Martin's title challenge? You guys go first, because I have an annoying answer about this, and I'd rather hear a non-annoying answer.
I'm pretty sure he's going to be okay. That doesn't necessarily mean I think he's going to win. But I don't think the concept of the battle is going to be what derails Bezzecchi. I think it'll just, if it doesn't go his way, it'll be the fact that Martin's faster. But I don't see resilience coming into it. I see Bez as being quite kind of stubbornly tough and kind of capable of dealing with it, especially within Aprilia and with Rivola being the overseer of all of this. I think it's not going to be a chaotic wall down the middle of the garage title fight situation a la Yamaha 2015 or whatever. It's not going to be that. It's going to be a very well-placed, well-mannered thing. And actually, we spoke to Rivola tonight about this afterwards, and he basically reiterated that both of his riders know that there needs to be an awful lot of respect for the team, an awful lot of respect for the people that build the bike, and an awful lot of respect for each other. And as long as they do that, all's fair in love and war. So I think that is the attitude that both parties here need, both riders need. And I think Bezzecchi and Martin will react quite well to it, and it will come down to who's faster rather than who's tougher or who plays the better mind games or who runs into the other one or does something stupid like that.
I think my analogy is going to be, and you can shoot me down in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, I see this very like 24, to be honest. I think Bezzecchi is, overall, I think he's quicker than Martin around a lot of circuits, right? But Bagnaia was like that in 24 too.
Okay.
But the sprint crashes and the little incidents that he get caught up in, they totaled up over the season. And Bezzecchi's had many DNFs or many non-finishes in sprints already. 3 or 2 or 3. I don't know what it is. Got his first medal at the weekend anyway. But Martin is winning those sprints. And Martin has, this is the cat and mouse game, I think. I don't think it's going to be, like Simon says, the explosiveness of a team atmosphere. I think that the management will do really well to keep that, as best held back as it can. But you never know; some things do happen. But yeah, I see it like 24 2.0 almost, and Martin now has, Marc Marquez isn't around, but if there's a title fight, Marc Marquez might not be in it, but he can certainly play games if he gets back to full fitness. And that bike starts working with him. So we're into that sort of 2015, 2024 territory again, which, I think it's quite interesting as a perspective for the season.
Mitch McNuggets asks, how will Aprilia deal with a favorite son and a black sheep button heads in a championship fight? Will there be team orders? It feels as though everything has been very clean so far. Will Bez take the gloves off if Martin starts to pull ahead? Now, this is sort of that question, and the previous question is the questions that I kind of, my annoying gene is spiking. It's a big part of my DNA, the annoying part. It's really, really, really important. It just, that matters so much less than the amount of chat that is dedicated to it, as I think already 2024 proved with the same situation with a favorite son and a guy who signed with somebody else and threatened to take the number one plate away and gave a couple of snarky interviews here and there about not getting enough help. It just didn't matter in the end. It didn't make enough of a competitive difference on track. And I'm the same way with the Bezzecchi resilience. I think it will be tested, but at this point, firstly, they're still feeling each other out in terms of what their actual true track-to-track regular level is. I think we still don't know. It's 6 rounds out of 22, which is also why it might be premature to say the title is his or his. But I do think it sure is looking that way to me. And that realization, I think, will be very important. But it's just, it doesn't matter as much as the pure speed. It doesn't matter that as much as the moment-to-moment, just moments of variance that can decide a title like this, like the Pecco Bagnaia crash at Sepang, was it, in the Grand Prix in 24?
Sprint. It was in
the sprint. Sorry, in the sprint in 24. Yeah, because he had 4 races to go and he needed to basically clutch him up, and he did not. But that part should decide it, assuming this is their respective real performance levels. That part will matter much more than whatever Aprilia tries to do. Team order is absolutely a no-go on current evidence, because what team orders one of your riders going to win the championship? You can't do anything. Who do you order to do what? There's nothing there. And equally, I think the thing about taking the gloves off, I don't know. Could Marco Bezzecchi have taken the gloves off today? No, he got breezed by and he couldn't stay with him. I don't really think that's a thing that matters. I just like I know that people don't always agree, but I think that's just so secondary or tertiary to the pure matters of pace and luck.
That's another thing Weevil said when we spoke to him. I asked how nervous he was when Martin was behind Bez with 4 laps to go, and he said that he was much more nervous whenever Martin passed and Bez was behind Jorge, because the old Marco would have crashed trying to keep up with him. And that they're trying to retake him, and said that the fact that he saw the 20 points and that taking them was the right move was reassuring sign that Bezzecchi was kind of maturing as a rider. I fundamentally disagree with the question, because there is no black sheep. Jorge Martin tried to rage quit Aprilia while recovering from self-inflicted injuries halfway through year 1 of a 2-year contract, and Aprilia didn't get pissed off at him. I think the fact that he's now serving his time winning races for them and will gracefully walk away at the end of the season as they sign another world champion to replace him means that there's even less of that kind of any form of ill feeling or bad blood or anything between them. And honestly, Rivola and the Aprilia squad are just, they're not those people. They're not going to favor one over the other here while they're in a fair title fight. I think that is just who this team is. It's not going to be a thing where there's a black sheep and a favorite son until the championship is won and until they're ready to go their separate ways.
Yeah, it's very true. And by the way, happy 1 year anniversary of Jorge Martin driving to Le Mans and telling Aprilia, I don't want to be here next year, and he's then winning the race.
Yeah.
That is, that's how ironic is that? And tie it all in, that's pretty, when you think about that, that's how things turn for Zarco. But this championship, I think, is going to be won and lost on Saturdays. Sounds really sort of anticlimactic saying that. Martin's qualifying hasn't been great.
Yeah.
He's been making these great starts, but at some point, it's going to catch you out and you're going to get caught up in something. It's just the numbers and the averages of it. But Bezzecchi's doing really good jobs on Saturdays in qualifying, and then he's kind of not delivering in sprints, but kind of made it better this weekend. If he does that, I think Bezzecchi, for me, just given off the last 9 months really of MotoGP, he is, for me, that you look at the form line, you're like, you can trust him. You can't trust him on a Sunday. But the Saturdays, if he can tidy those up, we're in for a hell of a fight. I think it'll be, it's really hard for me to call who I think is going to be world champion at the minute. Get to halfway through the season and then I can give you an answer probably. But if it keeps going like this with these two at the front, it'll be a mega fight.
Yeah, a couple of relevant questions to what you both mentioned. James Reinberg asked, where is Jorge Martin's qualifying pace? I think having watched the timing very intently all season, I can say it's there in fits and starts, but just it feels like Marco Bezzecchi is just much more used at coming to Q2 and knowing, basically which markers to hit, how to do the lap time repeatedly, how to clutch it up in a sense. And Martin, every time it feels like you come out of Friday and you're like, well, this is going to be the day. And then come Q2, Bezzecchi just has his number and Martin struggles to put the lap together. And he's still not outqualified Marco Bezzecchi. I think it is a matter of time, but he does. You're absolutely right, Jordan. He does 100% need it. As we saw this weekend, if you swap his starts around, if you have the Sunday start in the sprint and the Saturday start in the main race, he still wins the main race. He does not win the sprint, which, it is relevant. And Gabriel Sedeno asks, is there any chance of Martin getting out of the Yamaha contract before even sitting on the bike? The issue there is, who's he going to go right for in that particular scenario? Because it probably will not be CF Moto Aspar, nor it will probably be BMW. It will be Yamaha. He has, by all accounts, signed with Yamaha. He will ride the Yamaha. He will be handsomely rewarded for riding with Yamaha. The Yamaha doesn't even look that bad right now this weekend, so don't worry about that.
Even if he doesn't go to ride a Yamaha, even if he gets out of the Yamaha contract, he's not getting back into Aprilia. Unless he wants to go and ride for Trackhouse. That's the only option here. We know they've signed Pecco Bagnaia. That's it. It's done. Regarding the qualifying thing, it's harder to find single lap pace, even on a very good bike, than it is to find race pace. I think that's a universal. It's just more difficult because you have to bite the screen, to use the old metaphor, and it especially for someone that's kind of coming back, I guess, still not 100% or fully at ease with this bike. Sometimes you can do it and be dumb and get away with it, but I don't think he's willing. I don't think new, improved, post multiple injuries Jorge Martin is as willing to do that, maybe, as he was in the past, to be as dominant. I think Mark used to say it, didn't he, when he was teammates with Paul Espargaro at Honda, that Paul was very, very good at switching off his brain and doing one qualifying lap. It's a Jack Miller trait as well, switching off the brain and doing one lap. But it's not something you can sustain. And I think Martin doesn't have to, especially whenever Aprilia have built, this is literally the greatest imaginable bike at going from not to 100 kilometers an hour, not to 60 miles an hour, that we'll ever see, maybe, because devices are going away, right? This bike is so good at that the rest is almost, it's worth a row. Basically, the bike is that good at the minute. It's worth a row in the grid. It's worth noting that whenever we asked him about his start in the sprint and whether it was the best start he'd ever made, he was like, nah, it wasn't even close. And cited 2021 Qatar, maybe, where he went 15th to 3rd in the first corner.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That was his first ever race too. Yep. And then he got pole the next round after. Yeah, that's right.
That's what it was. He got pole the next round after at the same circuit. That's why I couldn't remember. Yes, yeah.
And we're back. Stuart Coulter asks, will the proverbial floodgates now open for Ogura after finally grabbing his first podium finish? And Eric Yip says, Ogura, what a right. He could have fought for the win if he didn't make mistake overtaking Fabio. Now, the mistake is the Recordamont attempt. It did look a bit clumsy, and he went on the outside curb, let Fabio back through, also let Joan Mir through. In that point, I was like, today maybe isn't the day for the Ogura podium, even though I suspect he does have the pace. But then he had plenty of pace in hand still. Don't think there's any floodgates that need opening. Like, we've seen this exact Ogura race multiple times already. Not that much has changed.
He's far too meticulous for a floodgates moment. He's not someone who needs it all to click into suddenly falling into place and then to run away with whatever. He's such a perfectionist, such a step-by-step guy that this is just a step. It's not going to significantly change anything for him, really, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll actually dissuade him from riding this well again, because I don't think he enjoys the MotoGP press conference environment very much. It's too many people asking him complicated questions and expecting long answers, which isn't
or any questions really,
or any questions. Again, this is not a criticism by any stretch of the imagination. I am insanely enamored with the way Ogura answers questions, and he's super respectful, super good to the media. He's just not the most. He doesn't use more words when less words could suffice. I do think,
I will say it as well. It's not a language thing. It's not that he doesn't speak good enough English. It's just that he doesn't want to.
Yeah, and fair dues. We're the ones who want to speak, and this is why we're here in your phone screens or phone whatever, headphones. Phone, something. I gotta stop saying phone.
Where are you going with
on
this?
your TV, watching us on YouTube on your TV, because that's how people are consuming YouTube these days, Val.
Like a Matty God, where are you going with this?
Do you not read our internal newsletter?
Where are you going with this? Like, just move on to the question. Give Ogura his credit, man. Come on.
I've finally been called out for vamping incessantly, and it's my trade secret of coming up with the end of sentences midway through the sentence has been revealed to the general public. Ogura looking really good. His form also suggests again that the Aprilia is exceptional. Let's get to the Marc Marquez section of the podcast, which for once we will not be doing next weekend. Yes.
Can I say something about Ogura? He's going to win a race this year. He's going to win a Grand Prix. I don't know where it's going to be. Yeah. I thought maybe Austria, or do you know what? If he wants to go the full Hollywood story, give it to him in Motegi. That would just be unbelievable if he did. But
I mean, as is traditional on an Aprilia and as a kind of rising MotoGP star, it will be at Silverstone.
Yeah, good shot.
That's kind of the traditional place to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure
circuit he enjoys, though. Yeah. He doesn't really like Silverstone.
I don't think he really enjoys any track. Like, it's quite hard to figure out what he does enjoy in life. He's very private about everything.
Yeah, when he was asked whether he enjoys the Le Mans layout, he said no, and then in a follow-up, he made some very complicated sounds about it, which I immediately clipped and sent to the work chat because they were exceptionally funny. Let's get to the Marc Marquez bit of it. Motorsport Mike asks, how did Marc Marquez have such a violent crash? I think it looked like, and some of the riders pointed this out, I think maybe Luca Marini specifically, that when he went into the corner, his front wheel basically got caught in the join line between the curb and the white line, lost the grip. He tucked it, then it regripped as whatever is happening. He, in the process of regripping, he hit his right foot quite hard against the ground, which is presumably where the fracture of the fifth metatarsal, which is the long bone on the outside, is. Sustained that. Then he went over the handlebars, hit his head a bit. Didn't seem to particularly notice that, but limped back to the paddock, and that was all she wrote for Marc's weekend. And now he's out for 2 weekends and has undergone a double surgery, which is fun. He's probably got a coupon there at Ribera International in Madrid.
No, he pays for the annual membership.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Yeah, it does. On retainer. Yeah. So very, very, very important revelation about Marc's season, and one that is potentially transformative, though again, it will very much depend on when he returns, how he will look upon returning. But he had leftovers from previous surgeries in his right shoulder through like, I think a bent screw, a broken screw, and also today we found out apparently like some bone fragments or something. I would hate to see an X-ray of that shoulder again. I saw the X-ray of Remy Gardner's shoulder, and that was one extra shoulder X-ray. That's enough for me for now. But yeah, and one of those things, I think one of the screws was tapping the radial nerve, particularly when he was in the tucked in sort of MotoGP position. And he wasn't quite aware, because I presume it's not searing pain so much as it just numbs you a little bit, and then you don't quite feel right, and then you go into corners and potentially you crash. Like, again, happened to him in a right-hander, wasn't it? So it was a right-hand corner, like happened to him again this weekend, and finally he was just like, this is, my body isn't responding right on the right side because it doesn't have its full capacities. And that does explain a lot. That explains suspiciously a lot. And he did not say it at the start of the Le Mans weekend, but previously in the season, he did only seemingly find it out after Jerez, because in Jerez, he thought he was at pure physical fitness. And then he did the weekend. He was like, none of this felt right. I need to go in again and check what it is. So it's a complicated situation, but it is at least less cloak and dagger now, it feels like, than it was before.
Maybe his big toe has fallen off, or he hasn't told us about that as well. Like, I mean, who knows? Because it's Marc, and he doesn't make excuses. That is the Marc Marquez trait. He does not make excuses. He is so unlike most riders in that regards. And even we started the weekend, whenever all of this was known, with someone asking on Thursday about the crash in Jerez and whether or not he'd understood it a bit better, and he was like, "Yeah, I crashed. Sometimes you crash. That's part of it," and he just wasn't prepared to blame it on anything else, the way that plenty of other riders are all the time. So you have to admire that about him. And he's obviously kept it from us because he suspected that it wasn't that big a deal, or because he didn't want to be accused of making excuses whenever things weren't going right. This is obviously the right time to go and have the surgery and get it done. Whenever he's already under a general anesthetic, gets foot plated. And yeah, I mean, hopefully it won't take too long to get him back into fitness, and we'll get a bit of an assessment of where he really is. But also it's worth noting that this is literally also the reason why, like literally the exact same slightly unusual problem is exactly the reason why Maverick Vinales isn't here. And it is a thing that happens.
Yeah, everything goes back to that 2019 surgery, doesn't it? It's just like that one in that winter, that time. It's just 7 years on, you're thinking, wow, you're still having effects from that. And I think back to last year after he got the surgery for the shoulder injury that he's just in from the incident with Bezzecchi. Wasn't there talk about the screw then as well, like being loose? And he was like, oh, I'll just deal with it. He was like, he admitted that, oh yeah. So I'm thinking, well, is that the screw that's causing the problem? Because yeah, that there is. I mean, he makes it sound like such a minor thing, and you're thinking, how can you just do that? And it does explain a lot with the Jerez crash, like really, and the right-handers and that false feeling that he's talked about, where he just can't trust himself, and he gets this sense where, oh, I can do this, and then it just goes. I mean, the qualifying lap in Q1.
Yep.
I mean, I'll just be a great start to work out. How many people have set the lap record in Q1 and then not got pole in Q2? Because like it's one of those ridiculous, like weird, quirky stats. But yeah, like I think he'll be fine. Honestly, I think he'll be fine when he comes back. I hope that this is the one that kind of just closes all the. I mean, his shoulder's never going to be 100%, but it's like, well, can we get back to a level where we're closer to 25? Which I do hope we get into that sort of territory, but. Yeah, who knows? Because with Maverick, that shoulder is, it might be a routine surgery, but like Maverick's still not back.
Yeah.
And he might not be back until Mugello, as a good understander kind of hinted at.
So something really significant, and it leads into one of the questions in the members club, because we have a question. I think Jake Wilkins asked, is this going to affect his long-term plans? Is this going to affect his future, his retirement, whatever? Could it force him to retire? I got told at the weekend that he signed a 2-year deal, which was a question mark, that he signed for 27 and 28. Someone reliable kind of let that go. So I wonder if the news that this problem has existed all along, this screw, has been the thing that allowed him to sign the deal. because then
good
it
point.
becomes not a case of the shoulder is destroyed from multiple reconstructions, but it's a specific issue with the shoulder that can be surgically repaired. It's not old age, essentially. It's not, arthritis because he's destroyed himself. It's not physically weak. It is a problem that can be fixed, and now it is being fixed. I wonder if that played quite a significant, finding out that played quite a significant role in all of this, and actually whether, Marco Bezzecchi has actually extended his career, not shortened it, because they discovered that all of this happened after the Indonesia thing.
Yeah, I think regardless of the actual signing, because there's the contract and there's what he's actually going to do, right? Because you can have the contract, and then if your
he
body
can retire
is enough
a la
to,
Jorge Lorenzo.
Yeah, exactly. Or a la like riders just do it. It just happens sometimes. Sometimes they quit mid-season, a la Andrea Dovizioso, and it's fine. Nobody, yeah. And nobody has an issue with it. But I do think that the knowledge it's actually fantastic news. Weirdly, not like fantastic, because obviously he's this title I think is gone, and it's another surgery. And he broke his foot. That's not fantastic, but in the sense of there is a certainty that this offers, or there is at least whenever you get an explanation that sounds about right, that's already a huge pick me up. I do think he wants to go into 27. Give it his full. I do think that he's still seen flashes to where he knows he can be fast enough when right, as Jordan alluded to the awesome Q1 lap, which probably in his condition is difficult to repeat. Specifically, I would imagine like he had to pull it out in that moment, and he risked everything. He decided to go for it, and it worked. But then you can't probably quite repeat that. And he was quite adrift to that in Q2, whereas let's say Fabio Quartararo also advanced from Q1. I think basically mirrored the lap time, so it's not like there's a huge
five and a bit tenths off, I think.
Yeah,
and it still was good enough for P2, which is still
exactly
incredible.
It was a phenomenal effort. But yeah, it strikes me as positive news, but it needs track checking. It needs track verifying. And there's a relevant question here from Alex Manley, who says, could Marquez's enforced break actually mean we are more likely to see him next year break away to get fit, and no longer any thoughts on the championship this year? So I originally misread that as him saying like that he will sit out until next year, which obviously will not happen. There's no chance of that. But I mean, again, I have pretty little doubt he'll be riding in 27, but he needs to get back. Not as soon as possible, but he does need to get back this season, obviously, fit. Like, first, he needs to recover and ensure that no Maverick-like situation happens. He needs to, feel comfortable with his body. He needs to go into further examinations to make sure that nothing's pinching on any new nerve, etc. There aren't 15 screws in his stomach somewhere that we all forgot about from the 50 million other surgeries that he's had. All the screws from the left shoulder have gathered in his clavicle. I don't know, whatever.
They've accidentally left someone else's arm inside him.
Yeah, exactly. There's change from somebody's pocket and all that. Anyway, he needs to check all that, but then once he comes back, it is going to be extremely important to verify that actually, yes, that was it. And things feel good now. And the only way to verify it for him, it seems, isn't going motocross riding, isn't going testing for a day, isn't showing up for Friday. It's doing a full intensity weekend and seeing how he feels in the early laps of the sprint, in the early laps of Sunday, and at the end of the weekend. And even then, it's very clearly an imprecise science. Like with all what we see going on with riders, we know they have way too much control and they go too much on feel with how they treat their fitness. But it's also, when we look at the timesheets, this kind of thing isn't as obvious as you'd think it would be. You'd think that if somebody's nerve is getting, touched by a screw and giving him like numbness in the shoulder or whatever's happening, you'd think that would immediately and obviously show up on the timing screens and on the telemetry as like, oh, this guy once every 5 laps just goes off somewhere in a specific corner. And clearly that has not happened because it's taken a while to discover.
I mean, we don't know the regularity of it or how. But the good news is once we get Mark back again, we'll be able to ask him all those questions and find out the details of it, because then he'll tell us about it once we know about it. But we don't know when it was happening, how it was happening. We don't know if he believes it's contributed to crashes. We don't know any of that at the minute.
And we're back again to discuss all the others. How I wish this segment was 3 hours long. It very easily could be, but it will not be, even though I am in charge and could make it so. Nobody could stop me.
No, you can't. I edit these podcasts. No, you're not
you can chop off the final 2 hours, but we'll have still gone through the process of recording it.
Sounds
so
good. Are you gonna talk to yourself? Because I want to get out of the circuit.
I do that on this nice blog.
I'm not going to be the other. Yeah, I'm not going to be culpable in this. I'm not going to be part of this. I've also just pitched a podcast plan to Jordan, and I haven't even told anyone else yet. That's going to take up a lot of his time in the future. So no.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but it's going to be good, right?
Yes.
Is it TT stuff?
You don't care.
We can't comment on that.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, let's talk about racing that I like. So yeah, Timo Ehlers asks, why can't Pecco be normal? Being his fan is so frustrating. And Jay Ferreira asks, what changed for Pecco? He was looking quite good this weekend, looked like himself. Before we get into details of this, I want to specifically request a moratorium on the idea of Pecco looking like himself, on the idea of Pecco's being back, on any form of Bagnaia or anything like that. That cannot happen anymore. This is not we can't be doing this as a society anymore. It should not be allowed. I think it's just track layout, and it just happens sometimes. I think he was pretty good. He was having a good weekend. He exited Sunday's race with what he said was a recurrence of the Jerez brake issue that put him out. Then I will say, when the broadcast was playing, they cut to I think it was the Acosta on board of him really hounding Bagnaia into the braking zones. Yeah. And I was like, something doesn't look right. But if you look at the timesheets, you don't actually see the trace of that drop off that should have been there potentially. But it also might have to do with the fact he had to change the way he applies brake pressure, basically changes brake pressure, and he was able to sustain the pace, but by taking more risks, which is what he suggested, then he fell off.
I'd like to go back to the question. MotoGP riders are not normal. They just, you can get as normal as you want, but yeah, they're all not normal. I think that, your point, Val, the onboard of Acosta, you can really see how close Acosta was getting. You can really see the rear of Bagnaia just stepping out when he was putting so much pressure to the front. And fair play to Bagnaia, actually, if he was managing an issue like that, to hang on as long as he did. Because, if you look back to Jerez, which we know now, he said it's a similar, it's pretty much the same issue. He retired halfway through the race, not even. So it's he did a really good job, and the track layout does suit him. It showed in the past, even though his results are a bit sort of scuppered. He's been involved in incidents, he's crashed out of sprints, he's been taken out, but it's genuinely a good circuit for him. And yeah, I do agree with you, Val. This whole is he back? I'm we just can't be doing this. We need to see it over 5 weekends, not one, because we've seen that last year, and look, he's had 9 DNFs in his last 12 Grand Prix. All not his fault, but still, there's a lot of answers there.
So I unsurprisingly disagree a little bit, because I think we've seen it 2 weekends in a row. I think we've been saying a kind of gradual improvement. It's not going to suddenly fix itself and be amazing, but there is a very gradual move in the right direction, I think. And it's frustrating that it's come down to basically a problem out of their control. They kind of pointed it at brake supplier Brembo after the race. But I think there's a trend line here starting to form. I think that it's not just this weekend. And he made a fairly logical assessment of that. And I think the point that he made that stood out to me the most, the thing that shows it more than anything, to go back to what we said at the very beginning about Jorge Martin, was the pole lap. I think sticking it in pole position is a fairly good sign of a bit of confidence. The fact that it's coming after a decent weekend and then a good test also makes me think that they're moving in the right direction. And we go into another race weekend followed by another test. So, obviously now the place where we're going to really assess this is not the next round after that, because Mugello doesn't, it's a home race, and he's going to go well at Mugello for the same reason that Val thinks he went well at Le Mans. But once we get to Balaton, which is a track that he should probably hate with all the problems he had last year, and did hate last year with all the problems he had, that will be the one where we can then say it.
Can I just be annoying about the pole lap? He was
annoying on the podcast.
He was 12 thousandths up on Marc, who had done a much better lap in Q1. He was 65 thousandths up on Fabio Di Giannantonio, who had like a B in his helmet or something. He was 3/10 up on Alex Marquez, who was just no good all weekend. Yeah, whatever. Just came out in the right end of the margins. I did think he had a good weekend pace-wise, performance-wise. I do think he has done himself a little bit of a disservice with this whole break, the way that they framed the break issue specifically. Just say what it was, because when it's two weekends in a row and one of them you retire from the race immediately, basically, and the other one is you still got it out until you crash. Is it an issue, or is it something you're doing with the brakes applied to you that isn't correct? Like, did they supply you the same faulty component two races in a row specifically, or did you refit the same one? Probably not. I'm guessing that's not what happened. So I don't know. They have to be more upfront about stuff like this before you really can totally discount the crash or the outcome of the race.
Has any other of the Ducati riders mentioned this similar? Did Alex Marquez? No, nothing like that.
Alex Marquez just shunted. Yeah.
No, I thought I heard like a round or two. Yeah, like there was something someone mentioned. It was like, oh, we kind of had that too, sort of thing, but no other one was kind of firm on it. So it's interesting that he's the only one having it really prominently, because Di Giannantonio's fine.
I think it'll come down to not being a part that's breaking, or not something that's failing per se, but something that is failing specifically because of the way Pecco rides or uses the brakes. I think it'll be that. It'll be something. It'll be some combination of a part and his riding style, his braking style, that's overloading something or blowing out a seal or something from the way he rides. That would be my theory.
Question from Sandeep, which sums up a lot of the questions that we got. How is Fabio Quartararo even doing these antics on that Yamaha? I mean, I don't know. is the fair answer. I don't think most of us know. There's a couple of things in there that make the weekend look ever so slightly better than it is. I mean, it's track position. It's all the bad stuff that went on with Alex Rins, who basically got robbed of his weekend through recurring technical issues, though is also himself partly culpable in the fact that he was very, very poor in Q2. And to be fair, even on Friday, when I think when Quartararo spoke and he was really, he sounded really out of sorts, I had this pet theory that probably isn't true, but that I couldn't totally dismiss, because he looked decent through the day. And then just in the end, it didn't quite come off. The timing wasn't right for him. And I had the theory that he came in very early to his media session, as he always does, without the knowledge that the Alex Rins lap had been set in tow of Jorge Martin. That lap isn't true. That's not really, he probably just saw it as oh man, Alex is much, very far ahead of me, when usually it's the other way around. Must be something wrong on my end. Whereas actually, I think just, circumstances. He did say they changed a lot for Saturday. He did say that they're also just being less, they're trying to do less with the bike now, sort of counterintuitively. They found something, they want to stick with it, because he's not particularly interested in running development on a bike that's fundamentally not competitive enough until they bring some new stuff to it. He was outrageous on Saturday in particular, wasn't he? I mean, just ridiculous. He was 2/10 off pole. He was considered lighting up the timing screens. Obviously, the bike was much more competitive here than it has been at any point in its lifespan, I would say. But he's just the guy. He's the guy they have. He's the guy they're going to lose, but they're going to get the guy. So no, not everything's.
I don't think the bike was that different here.
Well, the track is different.
No, I think the fact that it was a French race means Fabio was a little bit more motivated, and this is closer to the real level. I think he's given up, and actually he's really, really good. And the bike. Look, the bike cannot be bad, because if the bike was bad, it would be 3 seconds off the pace. And it's not. It's half a second off the pace, because MotoGP is so ridiculously. The only reason it looks bad is because MotoGP is so ridiculously close at the minute. It's not terrible for a bike that's 4 months old. It's amazing. It's incredible. Any other, if a manufacturer came in and bought a new bike into MotoGP and it was this close, this quickly, they would be issuing press releases daily about the amazing job done by their engineers. And essentially Yamaha, okay, they're Yamahas. They're not starting from scratch, but it's a whole new project. I think they've done really good work. Yes, it's got a load of technical problems that they keep landing specifically with Rins, but I think also with a lot of the others. But I honestly, I think it's not terrible. And I think the fact that the fastest guy, or the most impressive guy on it weekend to weekend this year has been the most motivated says something. Toprak Oglu. And the fact that Fabio then got a load of motivation because it was a home race and was suddenly really, really quick should say something to us.
I mean, the fastest guy has been Fabio. Toprak has been good, but
I didn't say fastest. I said most impressive.
Okay, I think you said fastest.
Then I changed it to most impressive.
Yes, fair enough. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really. The weekends are too long to really. I think Fabio, when it comes to qualifying, he's still he does what he can generally, and I think I would totally buy that he's less motivated in the moment to moment, like data working in the garage, like 100%. Like I totally buy that. He's less motivated to try things, that he's less motivated to hunt that high final 10th. And maybe that was here this weekend. I also that part I get. I wouldn't get like actively dogging it on the bike and not pushing, but I would get if you're like, yeah, okay, like we get 1/10 by like really doing this, 2/10 by doing that, and who cares? That's not, what is that going to change us? 15th to also 15th, but like 5 seconds closer at the end, whatever. This weekend, there was clearly opportunity and, he did it. But also, then again, if that is true, then we also have to think that he was somehow demotivated on Friday, which I don't believe was the case. I think he's just really good. I think he's really good, and like stars aligned to put him in a good track position, and the track was kind enough not to have him overtaken 5 million times on the straight, and that came together to a really good round. I don't know, Jordan, which side of that which side of the argument are you on?
I'm with you, Val. I
Thank you.
agree. Yeah, I just think he just had a really good weekend. Like the guy's just Simon's kind of got a point too when he gets up for the home Grand Prix too. Like that does help a lot, but I just think, he's done this before at French Grand Prix, but he's crashed out, and he just didn't crash out this time. And I think that, he just Fabio, he just does what he does, and like I just want to see what he does next year. That's really it. I've kind of seen the Yamaha stuff now. I'm like, can we move on to Chapter 2, please? Your MotoGP career. I want to have a real look at what you can do on a different manufacturer.
It's just a minor point for me about the home race thing, which is really sensitive. Like the whole weekend was about how Johan Zarco is definitely going to win when it rains on Sunday. Johan Zarco is definitely going to win. He's going to win by 20 seconds, maybe 30, 35. He will be propelled by the wings of the La Marseillaise or whatever, and he will win. He will lap the whole field. He is the greatest rain rider in the history of MotoGP. I am annoyed that we didn't get a rain race because it's just not that easy. And I don't understand how it was a talking point that the whole weekend. It really irritated me. It sounded like it kind of really irritated Johan Zarco when he was being asked about, like, so how many seconds are you going to win by in the wet on Sunday? Like, guys, just let me do my weekend. Like, let me exist on the LCR Honda.
He's only ever won one wet race. Like,
yeah.
And this is what I mean. Like, it was amazing last year, but it was like, he's got 2 MotoGP wins. Like, he's not won 10 wet races. Like, do you know what? No, he's not even the best wet rider of the modern era.
So he might be, but
he's not. Andrea Dovizioso, he's the best.
Oh.
And we'll go. Joe, here's a nice plug for the 2017 recap we did of the sort of retro series. Go back and listen to that if you're in the members club. Well worth it.
It got so bad over the weekend that Zarco's press officer actually messaged into the media group on WhatsApp that we have on Saturday night to be like, guys, can we please dial down the pressure on this guy? Because you are frying his head a bit. And that's not really Zarco. Like, he's not really the sort of person who gets his head fried.
Yeah. I mean, it's too much. It's too much from the offset. And you only need a very basic understanding of what the Honda bike is right now to pump the brakes a little bit. Storm Martin asks, which mythical rider would Val prefer? Out of contract Digia or changing manufacturer Jorge Martin? I'm gonna actually answer the question. Changing manufacturer Jorge Martin, but sounds like out of contract Digia is not out of contract Digia anymore. They have robbed them of the magical buff of unemployment, because it has been reported both by Italian media and Spanish media that Fabio Di Giannantonio has finally made up his mind and will go to KTM to be Alex Marquez's teammates, like they were again at Gresini. Simon, we went into the weekend sort of suspecting that, the decision is very, coming very soon if it didn't already happen. And you prodded him a bit on what it would take to stay at Ducati. And it just sounds like the situation was that he could not accept much lesser terms without also still at least maintaining the status of factory rider, and that we don't know how Ducati felt about it, but I do think that Ducati financially and structurally looked at it and thought, you're good. You're upholding our honor this season, but we're sorted. We're okay, probably. We're okay, and we're still going to have to pay Nicola Bulega one way or the other anyway in 2027. So we might as well pay him to ride for us in MotoGP with his Pirelli knowledge.
I actually, that point about Bulega, the last point you make is really relevant. And I don't know what it is with Ducati management where they just think, yeah, you've done really good for us, but here's just like less money. Well, not less money, but like you're not really getting any more sort of thing. But their thing is, look at the nice bike we've got sort of thing. That's the trade-off you get. And I think Enea Bastianini, yeah, he maybe could have stayed at satellite teams of Ducati. They could have kept him, but he wanted KTM, Tech 3. Obviously, there's more lucrative stuff there. You can get more money, essentially. But yeah, the Bulega stuff, I mean, it makes logical sense to me. If you're going to promote someone, you're losing to Giannantonio, you may as well go to the guy who's on Pirellis, who's running away with the World Championship and Superbikes, who's done replacement rides for you as relevant as last year, and you know that there's potential there. Safe bet. It's a logical move.
Yeah, I would expect now Nicola Bulega in MotoGP in the VR46 team where Di Giannantonio's seat should have been, and I would now expect that the Ducati World Superbike seat, that in theory that opens up, there should be something very interesting happening there, hopefully with somebody ex-MotoGP, or just, just something really interesting, because right now what has happened is, and please do not use this information as any sort of betting advice or anything like that, but if you just take like the vague idea of odds, this weekend, Iker Lecuona's odds to be World Superbike champion in 2027 have really, really, really shot up. Like he's taken, there's a big boost there.
So I basically had a one-on-one media scrum post-race with Jack Miller, which is always a nice time to like chat to Jack about stuff that, it's Jack. I have a good relationship with him. It's nice to be able to talk about stuff that you wouldn't necessarily throw into a more frenzied position. And we talked about whether or not he would be a test rider next year. And he was absolutely 100% insistent, adamant, he wants to race motorbikes. That he does the test riding stuff because the test riding stuff gives light at the end of the tunnel. And that's the only reason why he likes being a development rider, because then it means you get to go and race. And he's not ready for a test kick in MotoGP. But if there's not a place for him in MotoGP, like it sounds like there's not at Pramac now from what we've heard, factory Ducati, snap him up. Stick him on the Ducati Superbike, and he's your next Alvaro Bautista. He's your MotoGP veteran that goes in there and wins 3 or 4 titles. Not easily, but comfortably.
I hate the test stuff. I like it. It makes sense for a lot of riders. Like it's a good position for instance, for Paul, who's clearly has now realized that maybe like I've gotten away with enough injuries, I've done enough damage to myself, and I've achieved enough to where this is sporadic heroics and development works for me, and ditto for Danny Pedrosa. But there's also, when the conversation goes into with guys who, yes, have become surplus to MotoGP, but are still, racers race. They gotta race. We gotta have a platform for those guys to go racing for something meaningful, because they are still good enough to meaningfully race, just maybe not meaningfully at the top level when you can use their seats to develop young talent.
Augusto Fernandez
is or like when Miguel Oliveira was potentially in like test driver conversations last year. I was like, no. I mean, maybe Miguel currently hopes that that's what ended up, because he got quite badly hurt in the World Superbike Balaton round, and obviously speediest recovery there, has been having a really good World Superbike season, I would say otherwise. But it's like the idea of Jack Miller, the test rider, instead of Jack Miller, the guy who goes racing and does insane slicks on wet stuff in practice and qualifying sessions. I want that guy. Show me that guy. Don't hide that guy away with like one truck of equipment on a rented out Jerez on a damp Tuesday morning or whatever. Screw that. That's not additive to me. Use his talents for like, he's got to race. Have him race.
Jack Miller, Superbike rider, is what World Superbikes could be doing with a bit of
100%.
well.
Yeah, no, it will be good. And also, I mean, obviously the KTM thing cuts off the route that was promised to Maverick Vinales. I really hope he finds something because this is another guy who needs to race. And honestly, Alex Rins wants to race. Alex Rins needs to race. I know he's not, he's a limited version of himself relative. I'm not just saying by injury, by performance, but he's still like bad by MotoGP standards is not bad. Like it's just not bad. It's like we've had like Jonas Folger right now, who was this weekend the stand-in for Maverick Vinales, is 3 seconds off the pace riding, and all right. When he showed up in German Superbikes, he won every race. You want these guys racing, fighting. I think it's just really important to me.
If this reserve rider, third rider thing comes off, then they should be obliged to give them all Superbike rides.
Ooh, like wild card, or would you set up a team for that? Like the reserve team?
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah. One
Depends
rider
on the
team.
manufacturer, doesn't it? Yeah,
Well, they've all got bikes. They've all got MotoGP. They've all got bikes because Jonas Folger was testing last week KTM's new Supersport project, World Supersport project.
Yeah.
There is a space for everyone here.
Final question for the episode. Emergency Sushi. That's a fun name. How much damage has Mir done to his career with his crashes over the last couple of years? I'm a Mir admirer like Simon. Simon, you've been clocked. And I get that he crashed out of 6th while Zarco was 13th, but that is wearing thin. Quartararo was likewise overperforming on an even slower bike, and he made it to the end. Can somebody else take the floor? Because I've been really mean to Joan Mir on these.
Do you know what? I'm going to take something here because I've got something that's quite relevant to this. So I actually have. Let me grab it down here. I have a Christ
comedy
thing.
A show and tell podcast.
From Joan Mir, a Moto 2 screen that was involved in a crash. And it was given to me, and he kindly signed it in 2018. And yeah, I think that sums it up. Joan Mir wasn't a crasher, really, in Moto 2. Wasn't really a crasher in MotoGP in the early days. I mean, he had a huge crash in testing. That one at Bruno, but that wasn't his fault.
Technical problem.
Yeah. And then something happened in 2022 where the crashes, you get taken up by Jack Miller, I remember, Portimao, I think. And then everything started to unravel. And there's just been a huge crash at Austria. He broke his leg, the Honda stuff. And then it just, I don't know how many crashes we're at this point. It's just so frustrating because he doesn't crash in practice really that much anymore. And stop crashing in the races because you actually had a really good weekend. I don't know what you tell him at this point. I really like the guy, but it's just stop crashing in the Grand Prix.
The thing that happened in late 2022 is he signed a Honda contract.
Yeah, well, there you go. Thanks, Suzuki, for that.
But it's also there's clearly there's some sort of calibration issue going on, isn't it? Because the explanation, the way you put it, it does make a little bit of sense in the sense of the mechanics of what happened. He overtook Fabio, his front tire cooled, and he tried to warm it, and he didn't do a good job warming it, and he crashed out very, very quickly. Now, whether that swing in temperature is so dramatic so quickly, I mean, a lot of tales are told about the Michelin front. That sounds complicated to me, but who knows? The bigger issue is a lot of other riders overtook people during this race, went into clean air, stayed on. For some reason, Joan Mir isn't doing that. That is not a character failing. That is not a personal failing. That is not it does not make him a bad guy. It does not today. It does not necessarily. I was wondering at some points whether it signals a disrespect for his mission at Honda or for, the Honda staff that basically assembles his bike every time, for the Honda crew, for the Honda payments that go into his bank account. But increasingly, I just think he's riding too much on edge because his limit awareness just isn't there in races for whatever reason. That he's talking, he's justifying it with saying that he's pushing for important positions, etc. But it just feels like we just don't have riders like these too often these days that retire at this level. It's I can't even imagine that he's pushing too hard. I can imagine that he's pushing as hard as he's been conditioned by his entire life to push, but the bike just goes away. And I don't, the bike clearly is not evil. I'm very convinced that the Honda is not particularly mean in the grand scheme of things at this point. It's rough. It's rough. I still do stand by the fact that the problem is, he's clearly quick. He had a really good weekend before that. You cannot trust him. Not as a character, but as a rider that you employ, certainly as a first choice. You cannot trust him. You cannot put him in conversation with any other first choices or many other factory riders. And it's because of this, because at a certain point, the specific explanations take a backseat to the sample size, and the sample size is delirious. It is an insane sample size for MotoGP. Yeah, and that's that's kind of a downer note to end it on. Let's hope he goes the rest of the season, finishing every race. We'll be in your ears next time after Barcelona. Marc Marquez list, another potential twist in the increasingly all Aprilia championship fight. I mean, respect to Pedro Costa and Fabio Di Giannantonio, but I really don't think so. It's going to be really interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see whether a track that was once so fruitful for Aprilia will now cement this Martin Bezzecchi title fight, or whether actually there's going to be something going on where they don't have their edge there, like maybe has happened in 25, for instance.
I just want to say at the end of it on, I do not like Barcelona as a circuit. I hate the grip.
Ooh.
I hate how the races are. I do not like them. They're so two-part, and like you rarely get a good finish. The last good finish you really had at Barcelona was probably as a suspense thing was 2020, where Fabio ran out of tire and the Suzukis were closing.
Mm-hmm.
I do not really like the circuit for the layout's fine, but I don't like the track surface and how the races play with the tires.
Neither did the riders. So, yeah.